Rightio, welcome back to the channel, guys. Pretty excited to do this review today on some quality optics from Swarovski. I was lucky enough to know the rep well enough for him to loan me these two incredible pieces of equipment for a recent trip I did to New Zealand, where I took the tar there on the scale hooker, and I've also managed to have it in the bush guiding for about 5 trips. So I've got some real in the field experience with these, carrying them, using them, all sorts of weather conditions, light conditions, you name it. I feel like I've got a real good grasp on what these optics are all about. Alright, I'll just give you a little rundown on what we've got here. We've got the NL Pure 14 by 52 binos. We also have the ATC 17 by 40 by 56 spotter. So ATC is their angled telescope compact. They also do a straight eyepiece, so that's called their STC, or straight telescope compact. As the name would suggest, it's compact. This little telescope with the tripod adapter is running at 1100 grams, so just over a kilo. The NL Pure 14 by 52s are running just over a kilo themselves, about 1040 grams. That's with the little wings on here for the marsupial bino pouch. So there's just a quick look at the models that I've got here. I've had them in the field, like I've said, for several weeks, so I've got a really good idea on what they're capable of. So let's run through just some of the features. Now, I will throw up like the technical specs just on the side here, but you can Google it, you know, the exact weights, the field of views and all that sort of thing. I'm not going to delve right into the numbers, but what I'm just going to say is what my experience was with these two optics here in Victoria hunting sambar, and also over in New Zealand chasing tar. So first of all, they're big optics compared to what I'm used to. So here's my 18-year-old pair of SLC 10 by 42s. That's what I've had for so long. 18 years I've been running those binoculars, and I've never felt like I needed anything more than those until I started looking through these. These NL Pures are such a leap and bound ahead of the old SLCs. It's out of control. It's almost as if it's a totally different brand. Like, these are good solid binoculars. These are just amazingly better. Everything about them is better. The ergonomics of them on their own is better. I don't know if you can see there. I'll take it off this little tripod stand. So we've got like a belled objective. It just holds in your hand. Excellent. It just feels good in the hand. The focus adjustment wheel is smooth, and it's just right where you want it to be. You don't need to search for it. It balanced up with my eyes really well. It's nice and solid there, and the obviously your eye adjustment is spot on. Now generally I don't use eye cups, I just push them up against my forehead, but it's got the adjustable eye cups as well. Now it does come with eye cup protectors as well as the objective end covers, but because I'm running them in the marsupial case bino pouch there, I just rip them off so that they're all protected in the bino pouch. Now I have been running the Swarovski tripod adapter with these, which I think is excellent, but don't think for a minute that you absolutely have to run these 14s on a tripod. What I found out real quick was the technology upgrades from the SLCs from 18 years ago has allowed these 14 power binoculars to have a huge field of view compared to even the old 15s. So freestanding, just looking out like this with a pair of 14s or 15s back in the day, probably was on the limit of what you could comfortably do. These, you absolutely do not need to run it on a tripod. However, on a tripod, these things are amazingly brilliant. I can't even think of words to tell you how good the viewing experience is when you lock it into a tripod and you take away all that movement. but like I said, it's not necessary. And even with 14 power magnification, these are comfortable to use freestanding, unsupported. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying that they're as good as a pair of 10s when you start only using one hand, but with two hands and supported off your knees, these things are excellent, no dramas at all. And that's due to the increase in the field of view that you have. So excellent. And I've been running them in this bino harness, around my neck, and I haven't sort of felt like they're too big, they're too cumbersome. I've been able to just stand up and spot, freehand, no dramas at all. But when you do get to your glassing location where you can really set up and you can use this Swarovski tripod adapter, it's just a whole new world that you've opened up to yourself. Once that image is dead still and you can focus it right in, you can use all of your viewing to look for whatever you're looking for. So the edge-to-edge clarity on these things, and I know there's special names for it all, I'm not up to speed with them. I'm just going to say, when you've got it locked in on a tripod and you've got no movement in the glass, you can look all the way around the edges from side to side, top to bottom. There is no blurred section or distorted in any way. The edge to edge on these things is exceptional. One of the big things that I did find, and I do have other binoculars, I'm not going to mention brand names, and I get to look through nearly all my clients' binos as well, is this adjustment wheel is so smooth, but it's also not finicky. So you don't need to be focusing it all the time when you're just moving in glassing as you would normally panning across the face. And I think what the difference is there compared to some of the cheaper brands and some of the competitor brands, even in the higher end, is their depth of focus in these binoculars is really wide. So what that means is when you're focused in at a distance, when you move just slightly to the next distance, you don't feel like you really need to adjust the focus. It's already still in focus because of that depth of focus that you have with these binos. Now, in saying that, when you do get onto something, you can just tweak it a little bit and it just snaps in sharp, beautiful contrast like you've never seen before. With the 14 power magnification, it affords you to be able to look through the canopy of trees and into shadows is what I've found. With the contrast and the clarity that these have, you can actually look into the dark side of the hill and be able to pinpoint features from animals that you're looking for, specifically sambar. So everything about these things is magnificent, and to be honest with you, I really would struggle for anyone to convince me that there's a better brand out there or a better binocular than these at the moment. Now, they're not a range finding one. I always run the rangefinder on the side as a separate gig, and that's just a personal thing with me, is I just want my binoculars to be good binoculars, to be excellent glass. I don't want any sort of technology in there that's gonna maybe one day play up on me and then I've got to send them away for whatever reason. Not to say that range finding binoculars are something to stay away from. Just for me, that's what I want. I want my binoculars to just be really, really, really good at being a binocular. I'm not worried about a $350 rangefinder that I can just pop in a little pouch beside me. Now, let's swap over to the little spotter. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with different spotting scopes, but I will say that this little thing, with its range of magnification that it's got, it's super usable. Like I said, you can even use it freestanding without a tripod if you really in that situation where you just want to get a quick look. On 17 power, it's quite stable to use two-handed if you can sort of get a bit of a rest. But what I did find was when you crank it up to 40 power, when you've got it on a nice solid tripod, you could really pick out some details at quite long distances. One example of that was I spotted a deer in the scrub with the NL Pures at 1200 meters. I called it as a hind when it stepped out into a slight clearing. And when I got the little spotter onto it and managed to crank it up to 40 power, I realised it actually was just a little knobby spiker. So I could see that detail at 1200 metres quite clearly, and that was reasonably late in the afternoon. So that sort of shows the clarity and the sharp focus that you can get even at 40 power with this little compact spotter. Now, why would you need a compact spotter and the NL Pures? This combination is probably not what you'd go for. These 14 power binoculars pretty much do everything you need them to do, including most of what you would use this spotter for. If you're running a pair of 10s or 8s, then this spotter becomes more important to you. And you would be using this for identification of trophy size is basically how I'd go about it. For me, if I had a pair of these 14s wrapped around my neck, I probably would be leaving the little spotting scope at home. But if I had a pair of 10s, then the spotter might come with me, just so that I can really bring that image right in close, so I can determine whether or not what I'm seeing at 1.5 Ks is really what I want to spend my time going after. What I found with the 14s is it's enough magnification to tell me that at quite long distances, probably up to about 1,000 or 1,200 metres, no dramas at all. You can really tell the size of antlers and whatnot, just because of how clear and how, when you get these stable on a tripod, the image is just brilliant. I haven't found anything to pick on. Like, they're such good optically that and ergonomically, they're not heavy. They feel good in the hands. The focus wheels are just so smooth and precise. And with the spotter here, your zoom range, it's just, everything is Mickey Mouse. Now, I understand that quality comes with a price tag, but if you are in the market for the top tier quality optics, I think you're really going to struggle to go past what we've got here with Swarovski. I'm sure there are other brands that think that they're up there with them, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because I've always been a Swarovski man and I managed to convince them to loan me these ones. But I'm telling you now, if you drop the cash on either of these two products, you're not going to be ringing me or looking me up on social media and saying, "Hey Zeb, you full of those optics aren't as good as you say they were." I can guarantee you that the viewing experience that you'll have sitting behind this glass is second to none. I don't think there's anything out there that's better. There might be some brands out there that can equal it, but be better, I doubt it. What I found with the binos is, with that extra zoom or magnification over the 10 powers, I'm seeing detail through the canopy of the bush that you just can't get with a pair of 10s. Even with the quality of these, the extra magnification just really brought things out to me. And I think if you're doing any sort of long range glassing, you know, what I'm talking about long range is, 600 meters out to maybe 1.5 K, 1,200 meters thereabouts. These pair of 14s are exactly what you need in your kit. Now, if you're starting to go down the trophy judging side of things, then you want to be looking at the nice little ATC or the STC compact spotter from Swarovski. That's going to allow you to really get the detail of antlers or horns at quite a distance. Now, that's not something that I'm sort of super in need of, but I tell you what, when I was looking at that hind, what I thought was a hind at 1,200 meters and turned out to be a small spiker stag, it was quite impressive to be able to see that level of detail. So if you were trying to judge a trophy at 1,200 meters, this little spotter is definitely going to get the job done. Yeah, so like I said, I've got no cons apart from maybe the price, right? The price is going to be a sticking point for a lot of new hunters that have gone out there and brought a lot of gear, but these things are lifetime investments. I don't ever imagine selling my 10x42s. I've had them for 18 years now. My kids are going to be using those binos, or my grandkids are going to be using those binos. So the same is true with either of these two optics. It's a lifetime investment and you can't get better. So you're never going to have buyer's regret, and when your mate's sitting beside you and he's got another brand and he's going, wow, this is awesome. You're never going to go, I wish I had bought those. These are the top tier optics that are available at the moment, and I can't see any improvement anytime soon. They are to the point where they are enhancing your vision more than just magnifying it, if that makes sense. So your cheaper run brands, or your lower quality sort of binoculars and spotting scopes, all they really do is magnify your vision. These optics actually enhance your vision to the point where you can see things that you probably shouldn't see. It's just the contrast that you get with the color and everything, and the clarity in this optic. It's just mind-blowing what you can actually achieve at quite ridiculous distances. Spotting, little patches of hair on a deer in some foliage is actually achievable with either of these optics, and I'm not exaggerating in the fact that I feel like these are the best optics out there. Anyway, I'll give you some close-up views of them, but that's what I think of these two optics. If you've got any questions, make sure you punch them in the comments below and tell me your experience with your Swarovski optics. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, see you on the next one.